Good evening, y'all. It's your baby boomer Kitty Lane from the Peninsula in Virginia. Welcome to another Create and Relate. So I said I was going to wait until Sunday to tell you all the good stuff about the temperature blankets, but I'm kind of in a groove on my dress, and it's like on my spirit, and it's trying to burn its way out for me to tell you now. What I can tell you now, because I didn't do the charts like I wanted to, but I can hopefully tell you if I have to come back at a later time. If you want me to come back and show you the charts, which I do plan to work on even after telling you, just let me know in the comments. I don't have a problem doing it at all. Just know that it takes a little bit of time. The reason I said now is the time to plan your temperature blanket is because you have to decide what kind of blanket you want. Do you want one based on birthday? Do you want one based on the year that you're in? Do you want one based on your location? You know, it's so much. I made 3 last year, one for my granddaughter based on the year that she was born and the city that she was born in. And I got the temperatures from each day of that year, which was 2015. I just about finished one for my grandson. He doesn't even know it's supposed to finish, but the only thing I have to put on it is his name. But I chose the same thing for him, the year that he was born in the city in which he was born, every day for that year. I made one for my nephew based on the year that he was born and his favorite city that he lived in. You see what I'm saying? Now, I want to make one for myself when I'm 65, or by the time I have to wait until December 2nd of 2028. Yeah. Before I can complete it, because it's going to be 195 rows, which is 3 rows for each day. It's based on the year, on my birthday. It's going to be all December 2nd and what the temperatures were for December 2nd of each year. December 2nd, 1963, December 2nd, 1964, December 2nd, 1965. And it's also going to be based on the city in which I was raised, not where I was born. It's going to be based on the temperatures in Wilson, North Carolina, which is where I was raised. I will always consider that home. So that's where it's going to be. That's where it's going to come from. I did a wedding blanket one time, which the people wanted their anniversary blanket for 7 years of marriage. Well, their 7th anniversary was like 2 weeks prior to them asking for it, so I could get on it right away. And they wanted something simple, but just to commemorate the time, which was easy to do. I chose the treble crochet, which is something that they could just sit on the couch and throw over themselves, because treble to me is like extremely gappy. It's like super gappy, but they loved it. I was happy they loved it. Boom, there it is. I've also done those that they only wanted a specific month. One girl, oh my goodness, it broke my heart, every stitch I put into it, but she wanted a blanket to commemorate her freedom. She wanted only wanted 2 months involved, and that was the month that she first met this guy and the month that they broke up and she came out of that relationship alive. So yeah, those were kind of tedious. I'm sorry, they were kind of tedious too. They were kind of tear-jerking to do, not tedious. All of it is tedious. So after you decide what kind of blanket you're making, what is the purpose of the blanket, and where the blanket is centrally located, then you need to decide your stitch. Are you going to do single crochet? Are you going to do it in your stitch or your pattern? Are you going to do it in months surrounded by a border separating each month? Are you going to just go straight lines all the way up? Are you going to do panels like 3 months, 3 months, 3 months, 3 months, or 4, 4, 4? Or how are you going to do it? So you need to take that into consideration, which will determine how many lines you use. Once you pick that, then you need to have a color scheme in mind. What I generally do is ask the person's favorite color, and I build around that. I want something contrasting to be what I call the fill-in color. So even when I get down to my colors, if it's something like you wanting months or columns, 3 of your colors are not going to be included in your color scheme, because you're going to use one color as a filler color. Like for the month of February, you only have 28 days, not 31. In the month of April, you have 30 days, not 31. So for those 3 days missing in February and that 1 day missing in April, you're going to need what's called a fill-in color, which is not going to be a part of your color scheme. It needs to be separated because it'll be looked at as, oh, it was 92 degrees on this day, and then when you look at it again in November, then you're like, I don't remember it being 92 degrees in November. And it's kind of misleading to extend that other color or that last color into those other days. So if you pick a different color altogether, for a lot of people, they like black to be that color. I had one person who wanted like blood red, and even another who wanted purple. Hers was interesting. Got to tell you about that one. But she wanted purple to be in the fill-in color. She wanted white to be, she wanted hers in the months. She wanted them going across, 3 months across, 4 down. So it was January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. Okay? So each one was done as a rectangle, and she wanted the border around those to be a very light pink. And then she wanted her outer border to be purple like the filler days. So she had something to separate it from the outer border or from the other colors. So I only needed 2. In an instance like that, 2 colors is great. 2 colors is absolutely amazing. Even if you wanted to do the fill-in color and the inner border the same, it's something to distinguish the fact that this month does not have 31 days, and you always want to go with your most days. Okay? Now, that's if you want equality. I like things equal and balanced, so that's what I shoot for. Okay. So then when you figure out, let's say you're doing the color for their birthday year, then you want to go back, find you a good weather site to go to. Go back and find out, the temperature for every day of that year. Here again, you have to decide whether they want the high temperature, the low temperature, or a medium temperature, meaning the average of the 2. So most of the people I deal with want the high. They if it was 32 degrees on January 1st, that's what they want, as opposed to the mid being maybe 20, or the low being 8. So most people go with a high temperature. I'm so sorry. So the first chart that you're going to make out is writing out, and what I do is put the month at the top of the page in my top tags and the number down the side. That way I can get, and I do use a ruler to separate so that they don't all run in together and blend together. And I write these numbers down under each month, making note. Like if I run across, say in May, I run across 91 degrees. And then when we turn around in June, I don't see anything higher than 88. July comes, bam, I see a 99. Okay, try to remember or jot down at the top of the page or the bottom or over to the side what those high days are and what those low days are. You know, if you see a 100, and what I usually do if they want the whole year is go to like, I am so sorry, go to like July and August and see what the high is in those days, because that's generally when it gets the hottest. And then I'll go between like mid-December to mid-March, you know, of the year prior, and only because I want to see what it might be trending going into. So not to confuse you, go from January to mid-March and see what the lowest is, and that'll give you your range, what you're going to need after you write all these days down. Now when you write the temperature down under each day, you want to leave a little bit of space to put a letter there. Now you have all of your temperatures written down. You found your high, you found your low. You're going to subtract your low from your high. My lens is still snagging on my eyelid. My lens is still snagging on my eyelid. So you want to find the difference between the high and the low. So if your high is 102 degrees and your low is 20, it's 82 degrees difference. So with 82 degrees difference, that gives you a vast range of temperatures. That sounds like Hampton Roads all day long. It really does. I have seen it go from sweating your behind off to snow in the same day. Yes, I have. My kids were all born. They saw it too. So the weather here is so unpredictable. But anyway, when you have a vast range like that, me personally, I like colors. I like rainbows and mysticality, and I just love the blending of colors. I want to see the different shades of orange, and you know, the orange and the burnt orange all the way down to the light peach, you know. So if I were to pick, say, 10 colors, a lot of people say start with few colors. To me, that's a boring blanket, because if you have, say if your temperature margins are 4 degrees apart. Let's go back a little bit. Say if you have 5 colors and your temperature margins are 10 degrees apart, then you're only doing 5 colors. You see what I'm saying? Let's say you got 3 shades of blue, a white, and a gray. And that's all your blanket's gonna be. You know, to me, a temperature blanket shows versatility. It shows complexity. It shows uniqueness, and it shows fun, and you know, whatever it is you're depicting in those colors needs to come out. And I don't think everything, unless you live in Washington State, I don't think everything is always dreary and sad. But I've never run across anybody who wanted it like that. The more colors, the more vibrant, the better. They like those bold colors that stick out. I have one that has a lot of green, gold, and orange in it, due to the colors that were picked and where they lived or where they wanted the blanket to be associated with. The temperatures were pretty much in the same, but if I had chosen fewer colors and a larger margin, then one of those colors would have been like, I'm looking at one now that has 3 rows of gold, 3 rows of green, a row of gold, 2 rows of orange. Let's say that gold is that middle color, and if I had chosen not to use the gold, it just kicked it out and made my margin a little larger, then I'd be looking at possibly 6 rows of green and 2 rows of orange. There'd be nothing in there to separate that. It would just be this long block of color, and then you also have to look at the fact when you make your temperature margins, you don't want them to be so close together. Sometimes you have to manipulate them so that you are spacing your colors out and you are making them far apart. But the purpose for finding the difference between the highest temperature and the lowest temperature is to let you know how many degrees or what your margin is for each color. Now let's say you've got 8 colors. We're not counting these 3 colors that you got over here, but let's say you have 8 colors to donate to this blanket, and you have, what did we say, 82? We said 102 to 20. So yeah, that's 82 degrees. So at this point, okay, 82 divided by the 8 colors that we have is approximately 10 degrees. So we'd have a 10 degree range that we could go with. And that's how you would alphabetize. You'd go through then and alphabetize them. Navy blue is A, medium blue is B, light blue is C. What next? Spring green is 4, forest green is 5, so forth and so on. Well, A, B, C, D, E, F. I said I went to numbers. I'm sorry. I try to do the alphabets because I'm sticking that alphabet beside the temperature number, and I don't want to get those numbers frustrated. I don't want to go back later, pick up this piece of paper and be like, is this 77 degrees and the color is 6, or is it 76 degrees and the color is 7? I don't want to do that to my brain. So I try to keep the colors in alphabets so that I can put the alphabet over beside the number, and depending on where the number goes. So once we get that chart done, if you want, you can go back and make a cleaner chart. I end up making about 3 or 4 per, because I want it done right. But I go through and I make the next chart the alphabets only. Now, when you're doing the alphabets only, always make you a grid over to the side or a legend over to the side so that you'll know what these alphabets stand for. Hence, my third chart, where I actually go through and put the first letter or the first 2 letters of the color. That way I don't have to write these all over again. The only reason I don't do that is because things like antique gold would be, for me, it would be QG. I wouldn't want to go AG for some reason. I'm thinking aqua something might go with that, but if I choose the Q, then I know that's antique. So QG would be that color. Something like the sky blue would be SB, but you have to make sure it doesn't, those letters don't correspond with another. Then you have to look at things like pink and peach. Is it P for both? Red and what was the other one? I used to always run into problems with those. But at any rate, you understand what I'm saying. That's why I picked the original alphabet. When I go back and redo the chart, I only do 3 months on a page at a time. That way I can write it out. I don't have to worry about what AQ is. I mean what QG is. I don't have to worry about what SB is, or LL, or I don't have to worry about that. It's just, I make it as simple as possible. And if I have to go through a lot to make it simple, now all of that for me would take about, if I sit down and just do it, I could do it all in a day, but it's going to take me the whole day. But if you put aside a couple of hours at a time, then it might take you, the month to get it done, or whatever. If you save 15 minutes, I'm going to sit down and write all these numbers down, or make my chart so that I can, you can break it up. That's why now is the time to do this, because the preparation is a lot more in-depth and intense than making the actual blanket. Now, when it comes time to make your blanket, if you are a traveling crocheter, you only want to do, if you're doing them by the month, if you're doing a year and you're doing it by the month, you only want to take a month's worth of crocheting with you at a time. You pick out the colors that you need for that month. Let me slide back a little bit. The other reason you want to figure out what your color scheme is going to be and how much you're going to devote to what temperatures is so that you'll know how much yarn to buy. That's why you have to know your pattern, you have to know what stitch you're using, you have to know your color scheme, you have to know how much of each color you're going to need. The first time I went to make a temperature blanket, I went to the store, bought 10 skeins of yarn, came back home, and I'm all happy and excited, and by the time I got to March, all of my yellow was gone. I used to shop at Sears, and the red heart yarn that I got was 99 cents. When it went up to $1.09, I almost had a fit. But my yellow ran out. And I was heartbroken. I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off, like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And of course by the time I went back, they were setting out their fall and winter colors. And yellow was not a part of that. So I'm one of the hard-headed crocheters. When I went back a couple of years later and tried to do it all over again, I figured I'd get less colors and more skeins. And I got 6 colors and 12 skeins. Now I have enough to cover whatever. And if I don't, no. I guess you heard from the example that I used, I was using 11 colors. And I mean, like I said, even if you go with a lesser amount, if you decide that you only want 3 colors in your blanket, automatically you got to have at least 5. Because like I said, you have to have one to fill in, you have to have the fill-in days, and you have to have your border color. So, yeah. But it took trial and error for me, and the only reason I'm putting this out here like this is because I don't want anybody to go through the hair pulling experience that I went through several times. If I can make it easy for somebody else, then by all means I'm gonna try. That's my gift to you. It just is so much simpler to plan ahead. Now, not everything do you have to plan ahead for. It is good if you do. It is good if you do, because we as creators know that I did a short earlier, and in that short I let it be known that while you're sitting here trying to determine which stitch I used on this one project, I've already come up with ideas for at least a dozen others. So I'm so far past this project. I'm and that's the way our minds work, and that's why we end up with so many whips. As I look around me and I see the different things that I've started, I'm like, no, this is not what I intended. This is not how I wanted this to be. This is not where I wanted it to go. So, and now also having to go back and readjust some things and put things up, and it's like, but I've already pulled out of this game, and I started this, and I don't like to start and not finish, and yeah. Told myself I wasn't going to start anything else, and lo and behold, earlier today, this happened. I'm excited about that because it's apparel, but it's kind of different. I'm not saying that it's never been done. I'm pretty sure it has been done somewhere. I know with every fiber in me that it's been, because I believe that there is nothing new under the sun. I believe that anything that you can think of, it's already been thought of, whether the person has put it out there or not. And I'm just not one of those people who just thinks that, hey, this was mine and all mine. No, I don't think that way. I don't. Now, what I think makes things different is the way things are presented. So there you have it. Also, looking around, I can tell if there's something else I need to say. Of course. I'm amazed that I did all of that in under 30 minutes. I am so proud of me. Hey. That's my pat on the back to myself. So I am going to leave you with that this evening. I'm going to get back to my dress and go back to looking at Harry Potter. That's what I have been binging today. I love the wizardry. Yes! I'm only on Harry Potter 2. I'm about 2/3 of the way through that. I had to stop a few times. And then there was some YouTube business that I had to take care of. So, like this one and the short. Yeah, so I keep getting messages. Oh, that was my auntie. I wish I knew how to post pictures on this. I could tell you the exciting event that happened in our world today. But the grandbabies are losing teeth like crazy. They are. And just before Oompa's birthday, she lost one. And Pete lost one not too long before that, and then he lost another today. So he is toothless. He can really sing the song, all I want for Christmas is my two front teeth. Yeah. But there you have it. That's what it takes to plan for a temperature blanket. And when you get everything together and you're all laid out, like I said, don't transport more than 1 month at a time. If you don't want everything to get all tangled, jumbled, and, just a mess, just travel light with it. Because it's say, like, if you're going to the doctor's office, this is what I mean. If you're going to the doctor's office or something, 1 month at a time. It's easy for me to do a month in a couple of hours, sometimes less. 1 row of single crochet, and let's say it's only 50 stitches wide. It doesn't take long, so if you only take a month's worth with you, then if you get to the point that you crochet all that up, then you need to find you another doctor that you don't have to sit in the waiting room for an hour and a half. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Ooh, that would be a lot. But my mouth is really dry. But if you are like traveling away for the weekend, then yeah, you might want to take maybe 3 to 6 months with you. It depends on how much time you're going to have to crochet. Now, if you're traveling with the intent of sightseeing or actually doing things while you're there that don't include your crocheting, then of course you don't want to take 6 months worth with you. For not being gone for a typical weekend. Maybe on the car, if you're not the driver and you're riding on the way to wherever, then you can crochet in the car on the way there. If it's an hour-long trip or something, or even 2 hours, let's say, then you might get a month and a half in, And then when you get there, you got to unpack, you got to set everything up, you got to, make sure everything is like you want it. And if you elect, usually when you arrive at your places, you go out to eat. Everybody gets unpacked and set up, and then they arrange to go out and have dinner or lunch or whatever, depending on the time that they arrive. And then you come back in and call it an evening, or you go out and sightsee or whatever. But creators generally come back to the room after that. And we spend the next couple of hours before we just pass completely out crocheting. So then you're looking at the possibility of another month and a half, which is 3 months that you got. The next day you got to do breakfast, you got to go do whatever you left town to go do, and then when you finally get back to the room, you might be able to put another 2 hours in. So now you're looking at 4.5 months. So you might be able to get that 6 months in. If you have a big enough container that will keep your yarn separated properly, then you can carry that whole year with you. If you crochet faster than me, then you could probably get it done. And I'm not super fast. I'm fast, but I'm not super fast. I've seen a lot of people faster. But I'm just saying, don't overwhelm yourself. That's the reason I say limit the amount that you take, because at any time and point with the temperature blanket, and as long as especially if it's not the current year, when you put that kind of stress and strain on yourself, you want to throw that temperature blanket 4 states away from you at that particular moment. It can get there. You don't want to see it. You don't want to hear anybody say anything about the temperature blanket. You look at the little groups and whatnot that you're involved in, and people will be talking about monitoring your progress as far as the temperature blanket goes, and you're like, what? No. So, you don't want to get to that point. So, me, in those cases, I do things like leave the big projects at home. I don't take the little ones with me. Grab a few skeins of yarn, get some ponytail holders, and make hats and scrunchies, ear warmers. That's how I do it. But a hook and scissors and at least 3 skeins of yarn go with me wherever I go. And yeah, I have to. But I am not going to bore you guys any longer. It was on my spirit to just get that out. And like I said, if you want me to make out those charts so that you can see what I'm talking about, I don't have a problem doing that at all. I'm planning on doing it anyway, but if you want me to show it to you, just let me know in the comments, and I will be sure to get that out to you. I have to say to my subscribers, thank you. We have 74 subscribers. If I'm not mistaken, this is video number, it's either 88 or 89. So we have 11 or 12 to go before we have our little giveaway. And I just hope whoever the winner is likes it. I do. I'm tickled to be able to do one, and like I said, I hope it's well received. Don't forget to like the video, please. Please, please, please. I put a lot of hard work into this one. I did. See the sweating? I'm kidding, y'all. But I did put a lot of brain power into it. Absolutely. And please comment. Please comment. I mean, even if it's not about wanting to see a chart, just let me know how you feel about the video. You know, how you feel about my delivery. If you're sick of looking at the same background, you know, we can try to do something different. Whatever. Also, share. Convince your buddies to just come over and check it out. You know, we get we get kudos for viewing hours as well. So just tell them, come look at it. Come look at it, you know. So subscribe, like, comment, share. I don't know if I have a notify button yet, but every now and then I'll be doing lives. So if I do have one of those bells, ring it twice so that you'll know when I set up an appointment to do or schedule a live. Then you'll be one of the first ones to know, and you can hop on with me and cheer me on, and we can drink our water together, or our coffee. Ooh, I'm ready for a second cup. And we can get it on and popping. But until then, I want to wish everybody a happy, safe, wonderful, and prosperous. Ooh, yeah. Just getting tired a little bit. Prosperous weekend. Have fun. Don't hurt yourselves. Don't hurt anybody else. Don't let anybody hurt you either. Don't forget, when you walk past the mirror and you see that image, make sure you stop and say to it, hey, I love you. And know from the bottom of my heart, from the pits of my soul, that I, Kitty Lane, love you too. You guys have a great evening. I'll see you tomorrow. Maybe even later.